What do you do when the life you've built shatters in 8 words over a phone call? I'm Alexandra Montgomery, a 33-year-old contract attorney, staring out my 35th floor Manhattan office window, the skyline gleaming indifferently as my husband Richard's voice, cold mechanical, slices through the morning calm. Alexandra, this isn't working anymore. I want a divorce. 13 years of marriage, dismissed without a hello, as if he's ordering his usual espresso. My stomach clenches, a premonition of betrayal sinking in before I can process it. We met when I was a wide-eyed 20-year-old receptionist, dazzled by his charm and success as a restaurateur. Now, at 10:30 a.m., with a major merger case looming, his call feels like a calculated strike. My tailored suit, the crystal paperweight he gave me for our 10th anniversary, it all mocks me now, rainbows dancing across legal briefs on my mahogany desk. I'm not just a wife, I'm a lawyer who makes executives sweat. Yet here I am, knuckles white around the phone, my voice too high, too breathless. "Richard, what are you talking about? Is this a joke?" "It's not," he says, already moved out, directing all communication through his lawyer, Martin Goldstein. The line goes dead, and my reflection in the glass looks like a stranger, successful, lost. I stand, nearly toppling that paperweight, its prisms scattering light like my fracturing world. My assistant Sarah appears, her sharp eyes catching my distress. "Alex, are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." 6 years together, she reads me like a deposition transcript. I motion for her to close the door. "Richard just called. He wants a divorce." Saying it aloud makes it real, the words heavy as lead. Sarah's shock mirrors mine. She saw us laughing at the firm's Christmas party last month. "What?" she asks, sinking into the chair across my desk. I collapse into my leather seat, exhaustion hitting like a wave. "Apparently not fine," I murmur, massaging my temples. "He's using Goldstein, a corporate shark from Perkins and Gray, not a divorce lawyer," which Sarah points out with indignation. "He's playing hardball from the start." My legal instincts kick in despite the ache in my chest. Goldstein's handled Richard's restaurant acquisitions. I know his tactics. "Maybe Richard thinks a corporate lawyer will scare me into accepting whatever he offers," I say, opening my laptop, fingers flying. Sarah suggests Richard underestimates the attorney I've become, one of Manhattan's top contract specialists. The irony stings. The man who boasted about my brilliance now bets against it. I clear my calendar, directing Sarah to reassign the Westlake merger to my colleague Thomas, and dig into Richard's recent activities. Business deals, travel, anything odd in the last 6 months. "Family emergency," I tell her for the Clayton Industries meeting, the words bitter. Not a word to anyone yet. Alone, I stare at our 10th anniversary photo from Bali, our smiles frozen on a beach I can't reconcile with his cold voice today. When had he changed? I scroll our shared calendar. His business trips spiked to every other weekend, late dinners, odd-hour gym sessions. The pattern screams infidelity. My throat tightens, but I don't cry, not yet. I set a 5-minute timer for grief, then dive into our joint accounts. Hotel charges in the city. Why, when our penthouse is 15 minutes away? Jewelry from Tiffany I never received. Dinners at intimate bistros on nights he claimed to be working. Each discovery cuts deeper, but the worst is his secret phone line, hundreds of texts to an unknown number. I can't access the messages, but the truth is clear. An email from Goldstein pings, proposing a meeting to discuss a settlement that infuriates me. The apartment and modest alimony for 5 years, relinquishing all claims to Richard's restaurant empire. Our empire, built with my contract reviews and strategic input. I smile, dangerous and cold, remembering the prenup he insisted on when I was 20, too naive to question it. Its infidelity clause, his own creation, promises 50% of his business assets if he strays. He thought I'd be the one to falter, not him. I reply, suggesting his office for the meeting, then call our bank to freeze transfers he initiated this morning. That evening, our penthouse feels hollow, his watch and laptop gone, but photos of our life, vacations, restaurant openings, line the halls. In his office, I open our safe, the combination unchanged, the date we met. The prenup's language is stark, its infidelity clause my weapon. I sleep in the guest room, unable to face our bed, and text the mystery number. We need to talk about Richard. Switching off my phone, I drift into uneasy sleep, steeling myself for the fight ahead. The next morning, I woke to sunlight filtering through the guest room curtains, my body heavy with the weight of what lay ahead. I dressed with purpose, a sharp charcoal suit that Richard once said made me look intimidating. Emerald earrings catching the light like defiant sparks, my grandmother's vintage watch for a touch of inherited strength. The mystery number had responded overnight. "Who is this?" Richard gave me this number to contact him. "I'm Brittany." The name hit like confirmation, a young woman's casual text, unraveling the last threads of doubt. I placed my phone in my briefcase alongside the prenup and evidence folders, then headed to Goldstein's office earlier than scheduled, ready to seize control. His assistant looked flustered at my early arrival. "Mrs. Montgomery, we weren't expecting you until 3. I smiled without warmth. "I decided to come early. Is Martin available now? It's rather urgent." She murmured into her phone, then led me in. Goldstein rose, a small man with wire-rimmed glasses and a ruthless reputation hidden behind mild features. "Mrs. Montgomery, I presume. I'm Martin Goldstein." His tone held pity, but as I set my briefcase down with a click, recognition dawned. "You're Alexandra Montgomery from Montgomery and Jenkins." His confidence wavered, hand trembling in our shake. We'd negotiated opposite sides of a development deal last year. He knew my edge. "Small world, isn't it?" I said, taking the seat he offered stiffly. The Manhattan skyline loomed behind him, but today his view was of a woman he hadn't anticipated, a peer, not a pushover. "Alexandra, then," he adjusted, recalibrating. "This is unexpected. Richard didn't mention your professional standing." "I imagine there are many things Richard failed to mention," I replied, opening my briefcase and placing a folder on his desk, including the precise terms of our prenuptial agreement. He tapped his own copy, but I directed him to Section 7, Paragraph 3, the infidelity clause highlighted in yellow. As he read, his face cycled through confusion to alarm. "This is quite specific," he admitted, pinching his nose bridge. "Yes, it is." Richard was insistent about it, concerned a young wife might stray. The irony hung heavy. "I've brought evidence," I continued, sliding another folder forward. "Credit card statements, hotel receipts, phone records, and Brittany's text." Goldstein stared, troubled. "Perhaps we should reschedule. I need to consult my client." "I'll wait," I said firmly, settling back. He dialed Richard, turning slightly away, but I caught fragments. "Your wife is here. Did you read your prenup? There's an infidelity clause. She has evidence." Richard's explosion echoed through the phone. "She's a contracts attorney. Did you know that?" Goldstein hung up, respect flickering in his eyes. "Richard is on his way. He'd like to discuss this privately." "All communication goes through you, remember?" His words. We waited in silence until Richard burst in, disheveled, stopping short at seeing me. "Alexandra," he said flatly. I remained seated. "Richard." He dismissed Goldstein, who fled gratefully. Alone, Richard paced to the window. "This is low, using a technicality to take half my business." "A technicality you insisted on," I countered. "To protect you from me." He turned, hard-eyed. "That was different." "How?" "Because you didn't think I'd enforce it or find out about Brittany." His reaction confirmed it. "How did you?" "It doesn't matter. You broke our contract, both marital and legal." He ran a hand through his silver-streaked hair, a familiar gesture that ached despite my resolve. "I handled it badly, but we can be reasonable. The settlement is generous." "Insulting," I shot back. 20% of what I'm entitled to isn't generous." "The prenup wasn't meant like this," he argued, frustration rising. "It was a formality." "Then you shouldn't have cheated." I stood, gathering my things. "We're beyond negotiating directly." He towered over me, grabbing my arm. "Wait. What do you want?" For a moment I imagined demanding the impossible, our life back, unbroken. Instead, what I'm entitled to, 50% of the business assets and equitable division. That would ruin the expansion. Should have considered that before Brittany, the 22-year-old hostess. His pallor deepened. Goldstein returned amid raised voices. "We're finished," I said, pausing at the door. "Expect a revised offer by week's end, reflecting the prenup in full." In the elevator, my facade cracked, shoulders slumping. Back at the office, Sarah awaited with updates. "How did it go?" "Meeting over. We'll discuss." Thomas Jenkins, my mentor, offered concern and family law help, but I declined. "This isn't just a case, it's my life." "Having distance might help," he advised gently. "After the papers, what then?" "I'll figure it out." He patted my shoulder. "You're stronger than you think." Alone, I stared at our wedding photo, questioning if Richard ever truly loved me or saw me as a trophy. A text from an unknown number interrupted. "This is Brittany. Can we meet?" "There's something you should know about Richard." Instinct screamed ignore, but leverage whispered otherwise. "The Atrium Cafe tomorrow noon," I replied. That night, I separated our lives in the penthouse, his clothes to the guest room, shared playlists deleted, his contact removed. In the office, a photo of Montague's opening caught me, Richard toasting me as essential to his success. I'd reviewed every contract, suggested concepts. The empire was mine too. This divorce would honor that. The next day, I chose a cream blouse and tailored pants for the cafe, arriving early to a corner table. Brittany entered, tall, blonde, effortlessly beautiful, about 22, echoing my younger self. Our eyes met. She approached nervously. "Alexandra? Brittany? Sit." She fidgeted with her Prada bag, a gift like mine last Christmas. "Thank you for meeting. I know it's weird." "One word for it. You said something about Richard." She breathed deep. "He's lied to you. And me." Papers from her purse, forged divorce docs from business contracts. "He said you were separated months ago." "It started 6 months back in Boston." He charmed her, promised advancement. "He set me up in New York, but I noticed things. No home visits, no friends. Because we were married, living together." Tears welled. "I found out after your text, researched you." "You're not stupid," I said, sympathy flickering. "He charmed me at your age too." We shared coffee. She ordered iced tea. "What happened, from receptionist to this?" "Richard encouraged school, law, but grew cold as I succeeded. He called me brilliant yet distant, not intimate in over a year." "Lies. What do you want?" I asked. She slid a USB. "Texts, emails, receipts, make him pay." "He called me a distraction, offered hush money." Cold Richard, unmasked. "I'm sorry, you deserve better." She shrugged. "I'll be fine. Move to Boston, study design. Do it. Reinvent yourself." She left radiant, thanking me. Alone, I processed, not an enemy, but another victim. Goldstein's messages awaited. Richard wanted another meeting. I called. "Additional evidence confirms infidelity. Enforce the prenup fully." Silence then. "Discuss settlements before court." "Wise. Terms tomorrow." That evening, I began the process of truly reclaiming my life, the USB drive from Brittany burning a hole in my purse like a talisman of vindication. I transferred my personal items from the penthouse to a luxury short-term rental I'd arranged in a quieter corner of the Upper East Side, a sleek, modern space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, devoid of any echoes of Richard. The move felt symbolic, each box packed severing another tie to the life we'd shared. As I unpacked essentials in the impersonal apartment, the crisp white linens and minimalist furniture offered a blank canvas, a place to breathe without the weight of shared memories pressing in. My mind raced ahead to the negotiations, fueled by the fresh evidence Brittany had provided, texts detailing their rendezvous, emails promising her a future he never intended, receipts for gifts and trips that overlapped with his business absences. It was irrefutable. A digital trail that would dismantle any denial. By midnight, seated at the pristine dining table with my laptop, I drafted the settlement terms methodically, drawing on years of contract expertise to ensure every clause was airtight. I retained 60% of the original prenup language, weaving in state law precedents for marital asset division, but added new provisions, not just 50% of the restaurant group and real estate holdings, but a seat on the board with veto power over major expansions, acknowledging my unseen contributions to the business's growth. No vindictiveness, but no concessions either. Fairness dictated by the clause Richard himself had authored. As I typed, internal monologues swirled. Was this revenge or justice? The line blurred in the quiet hours, but the sensory details grounded me. The cool glass of water sweating on the table, the distant hum of city traffic like a steady heartbeat reminding me I was alive, resilient. The next morning, I emailed the document to Goldstein, copying my own firm for the record, then headed to the office where Sarah had compiled more intel on Richard's recent dealings, including a suspicious loan against one of the restaurants that smelled like an attempt to hide assets. "He's scrambling," she said, handing me the reports. We reviewed them together, my tones steady despite the undercurrent of betrayal. Over the following weeks, negotiations unfolded in a series of tense meetings at Goldstein's firm, each one a confrontation veiled in legal civility. Goldstein, now treating me as an equal adversary, pushed back on the board seat, arguing it complicated operations. Richard's willing to offer more alimony in lieu, he proposed during our second session, his wire-rimmed glasses reflecting the conference room's harsh fluorescent lights. I leaned forward, evidence folders arrayed like weapons. The infidelity clause is clear, Martin. 50% of assets acquired during marriage, plus standard division. The board position ensures I protect my investment. After all, I helped build those contracts. He sighed, consulting notes from Richard, who avoided direct attendance after our last explosive encounter. In one particularly grueling afternoon, Goldstein presented a counteroffer: the apartment outright, increased alimony for 10 years, and 30% of the business equity, framing it as generous amid the expansion stresses. I countered with Brittany's USB contents projected on the screen, timestamps aligning with Richard's trips, affectionate messages calling her his fresh start. The room grew stifling, the scent of stale coffee mixing with Goldstein's subtle cologne as he paled. "This changes things," he admitted, requesting a recess to call Richard. I waited, sipping water, my mind flashing to new additions. Imagine scenarios where Richard paced his temporary hotel suite, realizing his charm couldn't negotiate this away. When Goldstein returned, his tone resigned. Richard agrees to the 50%, but requests mediation on the board role. We haggled for hours, me introducing fresh clauses for transparency and financial reporting, drawing from recent case law I'd researched on spousal business interests. By the third meeting, concessions piled up, equitable split of investment portfolios, my name remaining on the restaurant group's advisory council. The actual signing was anticlimactic, held in Goldstein's conference room 3 weeks later. Richard and I sat across from each other, the polished oak table a barrier as vast as our emotional gulf. He looked diminished, weary lines etching his face, his usual confidence eroded by the mounting evidence and therapy sessions he'd hinted at starting. We spoke only necessities, pens scratching signatures on documents that formalized the end. "This reflects the prenup in full," Goldstein noted neutrally, sliding copies our way. Richard's eyes met mine briefly, a mix of regret and resignation flickering before he looked away. As I signed, a wave of relief washed over me, not joy, but liberation from the limbo. Outside, the spring air carried hints of blooming cherry blossoms, a sensory promise of renewal amid Manhattan's bustle. Post-signing, I threw myself into rebuilding. The short-term rental became a sanctuary. I added personal touches: a vase of fresh lilies, books on contract innovations stacked by the bed. At the firm, Thomas promoted me to head the new hospitality contracts division, leveraging my restaurant experience. "Your insights are gold," he said during our strategy session, the office coffee's aroma mingling with printer ink. I joined a rowing club, the rhythmic splash of oars on the Hudson at dawn, awakening muscles and spirit I'd neglected. Cooking classes filled evenings, experimenting with farm-to-table recipes that echoed the business's signature style, but now felt wholly mine. Reconnecting with old friends over wine, laughter echoed in ways it hadn't in years. 6 months in, an email from Brittany arrived. Back in Boston, enrolled in design school, a photo of her first project attached. "Thanks for the push," she wrote. I replied warmly, her progress mirroring my own. Liberation from Richard's web. The business partnership solidified unexpectedly well. As co-owner, I attended board meetings virtually at first, inputting on sustainability initiatives that boosted stock 10% in the quarter. Richard's emails were professional, acknowledging my ideas without the old patronizing edge. It was strange, this forced alliance, but profitable. One evening, reviewing expansion reports in my apartment, the city lights twinkling like stars, I realized the pain had dulled to a scar. Strength forged in its place. As the negotiations dragged on over those intense weeks, the evidence from Brittany became my unshakable foundation, a reminder of how far I'd come from that initial shock. Goldstein's counteroffers grew more desperate, but each time I pushed back, I drew strength from the details she'd shared, her words echoing in my mind like a rallying cry. To fully appreciate the leverage she gave me, I often reflected on our cafe meeting the day after my confrontation with Richard and Goldstein, the encounter that had transformed a potential adversary into an unlikely ally. It was noon at the Atrium Cafe, sunlight streaming through the glass ceiling, casting patterns on the marble floors that mimicked the fractured pieces of my life. I'd arrived early, heart pounding despite my composed exterior, the aroma of fresh brewed coffee mingling with the faint floral scent from nearby arrangements. Brittany walked in precisely on time, her tall frame and blonde hair drawing glances, her beauty a stark reminder of the youth Richard had chased. She spotted me, straightened, and approached with a mix of nervousness and resolve. Her designer handbag, Prada, identical to one he'd gifted me, swinging slightly. "Alexandra?" Her voice was softer than I'd expected, higher, almost vulnerable. I nodded, gesturing to the seat. "Brittany, please, sit down." She did, fiddling with the strap, her clear blue eyes meeting mine directly after a moment. "Thank you for meeting me. I know this must be difficult." "Weird, as you said in your text," I replied neutrally, signaling the waiter for coffee. "But you mentioned something I should know about Richard." She took a deep breath, pulling out the stack of papers from her purse and placing them between us. "He's been lying to you, but to me too. He told me you were already separated, that the divorce was agreed upon months ago for business reasons." The anger surged anew at his manipulation, but I kept my face controlled, examining the documents, crude forgeries, business contracts with mismatched signature pages. New details emerged as she spoke. Their affair began during the Boston restaurant opening, where she hosted, and Richard had wooed her with promises of modeling opportunities, even flying her to New York for weekends away that coincided with his supposed conferences. "He made me feel like I was the only one who understood him," she confessed, her cheeks flushing. "Said you were too busy with your career, that you'd grown apart naturally." I ordered my coffee, black, strong, while she chose iced tea, twisting the straw wrapper as she continued. "He showed me these papers to prove it. I believed him because I wanted to." The timeline matched my discoveries: 6 months of deception, hotel stays I'd traced, jewelry charges for pieces she now wore subtly, like a delicate necklace peeking from her collar. But adding layers I hadn't anticipated, she described his mood swings. Charming one day, distant the next, always evading questions about his home life. Once, he canceled a trip last minute, said it was work, but I saw a photo online of you two at some gala. Her research after my text had unveiled the truth, leaving her feeling foolish, manipulated. Sympathy stirred unexpectedly. She was me at 20, dazzled by his world, but with less experience to spot the red flags. "You're not the first he's charmed this way," I said, sharing more than planned. How we'd met at the ad agency, his encouragement for my education turning to resentment as I succeeded. We bonded over parallels. His compliments masking control, his stories painting me as the distant one. "He told me you hadn't been intimate in over a year," she admitted, embarrassed. "Lies," I confirmed, but spared details, privacy a thin shield. As our drinks arrived, steam rising from my cup like unresolved tension, she pushed the USB drive across. "Everything's here. Texts, emails, photos even. Use it to make him face what he's done." New revelations poured out. He'd promised her a role in the restaurant group, perhaps managing a location, but it was all smoke. After confronting him post my text, he'd dismissed her cruelly, offering cash to vanish. "Like I was disposable," she said, voice cracking. I pocketed the drive, gratitude mixing with shared outrage. "Thank you. This strengthens my case immeasurably." We talked longer than intended, her asking about my journey from receptionist to attorney, me encouraging her design dreams with new advice, scholarships I'd researched quietly, networks in Boston. "You've got potential beyond what he saw," I told her, a mirror to my own reinvention. She left with a genuine smile, hugging me impulsively, a connection forged in betrayal's fire. Back in the present, during a pivotal negotiation session, I invoked that USB explicitly, projecting select anonymized texts onto the screen, Richard's promises to Brittany, juxtaposed with our joint calendar. Goldstein shifted uncomfortably, the room's air conditioning humming louder in the silence. "This confirms the affair beyond doubt," I stated, adding a new clause to my terms. Mandatory auditing of all business expenses to prevent future hidden indiscretions. Richard, attending virtually once, looked haunted, his concessions coming faster. The settlement solidified around my demands: 50% ownership, board influence, asset splits, transforming our divorce into an enforced partnership. As papers finalized, I thought of Brittany's parting words: "We both deserve better." Indeed, her proof had not only secured my future but highlighted Richard's patterns, ensuring I negotiated from unassailable ground. With the ink dry, relief coursed through me like the first rain after drought. I celebrated quietly in my rental, toasting with a glass of wine to the woman I'd become, the city below pulsing with life. The partnership began tentatively. Emails about expansions crossing my inbox, my sustainability ideas implemented swiftly. Stock rose, analysts praising the restructuring. Personal healing accelerated. Rowing sessions where the water's chill sharpened my focus. Cooking classes yielding meals shared with friends. Laughter filling gaps once occupied by silence. The weeks following my meeting with Brittany blurred into a whirlwind of legal maneuvering, each session with Goldstein building on the momentum her evidence had ignited. The USB drive sat on my desk like a silent sentinel, its contents an arsenal I deployed strategically. Select messages and receipts shared in negotiations to underscore the infidelity clause's applicability. Richard's initial resistance crumbled under the weight. His emails to Goldstein, which I glimpsed in Discovery, revealed a man grappling with consequences he hadn't foreseen. In one marathon meeting, amid the conference room's sterile scent of whiteboard markers and cooling takeout, Goldstein conceded key points. The clause is ironclad, Alexandra. Richard accepts the 50% split. But I pressed for more, introducing new terms like joint oversight on marketing budgets, drawing from recent hospitality cases where spousal contributions were undervalued. I've reviewed every expansion contract, I reminded him, the clack of my heels on the floor punctuating my resolve as I paced. By the end, the settlement reflected not just the prenup, but my intangible investments, ideas, late nights, the farm-to-table pivot that had defined the brand. The signing day arrived on a crisp afternoon, sunlight slanting through the blinds in Goldstein's office, casting long shadows that mirrored the drawn-out process. Richard entered looking older, his silver-streaked hair unkempt, eyes avoiding mine as we took seats across the table. The documents lay between us, thick stacks outlining the division. Half the restaurant group, including equity in the 8 locations, shared real estate like the Boston property, and personal assets split equitably, with me retaining the penthouse temporarily. "This concludes the matter," Goldstein intoned, his voice neutral as pen scratched. Richard signed first, his hand steady but his jaw tight. When our gazes met, something like regret flashed, gone in an instant. I added my signature with deliberate calm, the ink flowing smoothly, a period on 13 years. No words passed between us beyond formalities, no accusations, no pleas. As I left, briefcase in hand, the elevator's descent felt like shedding weight, the lobby's cool air a fresh breath after months of tension. Relocation came swiftly. I listed the penthouse and moved fully into the short-term rental, but soon purchased a West Village brownstone, charming with exposed brick and a small garden, a space screaming independence rather than shared luxury. Unpacking boxes amid the scent of fresh paint and blooming hydrangeas outside, I arranged my law books on custom shelves, hung abstract art from local galleries, and set up a home office overlooking the street's quiet bustle. It was mine, every decision, from the herb garden in the kitchen window to the rowing oars mounted as decor, a assertion of self. Professionally, Thomas's offer materialized. Heading the hospitality division meant diving into cases mirroring my life, like negotiating supplier contracts for eco-friendly chains. "Your experience with the Montgomery Group is invaluable," he said during our first team meeting, the firm's conference room alive with whiteboard sketches and steaming coffee. I thrived, closing deals that boosted the firm's reputation. My name now synonymous with innovative clauses protecting long-term partnerships. Personal rebuilding wove through it all, threads of healing in everyday acts. Rowing club mornings on the Hudson, the water's rhythmic slap against the boat, syncing with my breaths, muscles burning in cathartic release. New friends there shared stories of their own reinventions, laughter echoing over the waves. Cooking classes became a ritual, experimenting with fusion recipes that blended my suggestions from the restaurants with fresh twists, like herb-infused dishes I hosted for Sarah and others. "You're glowing," she observed one evening over wine in my brownstone, the candlelight flickering on faces free of office stress. Reconnecting with neglected friends filled weekends, museum visits, theater nights, the city's energy fueling my rediscovery. Even Brittany's update, her design project photo attached, prompted a reply with encouragement and a referral to a Boston contact. Our shared history, now a bridge rather than a wound. The business partnership, initially awkward, evolved into unexpected synergy. Board meetings via video, Richard's face on screen professional and occasionally deferential, saw my sustainability frameworks adopted, local sourcing mandates that cut costs and garnered awards. Stock climbed 15%, the Wall Street Journal article praising the post-divorce restructuring as a model for resilience. In one call, Richard admitted, "Your ideas on supplier audits are spot on. I should have listened sooner." No personal overtures, but a mutual respect budding, the restaurants thriving despite, or because of, our separation. Yet beneath the progress, questions lingered. Who was I without the marriage's framework? Evenings alone, sipping tea by the garden window, stars peeking through city haze, I journaled thoughts, tracing my arc from dazzled receptionist to empowered partner. 6 months post-divorce, the pieces aligned in a new pattern, stronger for the breaks. A client dinner led to a casual introduction. James Harrington, an antitrust specialist whose sharp questions at a conference had intrigued me. Our conversation flowed, professional yet sparking, hinting at possibilities I wasn't rushing, but no longer shunning. Life felt expansive. The betrayal's sting faded to a lesson in self-worth. The equilibrium I'd carved out in the months after the settlement held steady, a delicate balance of professional triumphs and personal rediscoveries that made the divorce feel like a distant storm rather than a fresh wound. The brownstone had become home, its garden blooming with late summer flowers whose scents wafted through open windows during evening calls with clients. My hospitality division at the firm expanded, taking on cases for boutique hotels and craft breweries, where I applied lessons from the restaurant group's pitfalls, clauses for ethical sourcing that prevented the kind of hidden liabilities Richard had once overlooked. Board updates arrived regularly, the business's 15% stock rise a testament to our restructured dynamic, analysts crediting the synergistic leadership in reports that crossed my desk. Richard's communications remained crisp, focused on metrics and strategies, but laced with subtle acknowledgments of my input, like approving a new supplier audit protocol I'd proposed. Then came the crisis that tested our fragile partnership. A late Friday call from Richard, his voice strained over the line as I chopped vegetables in my kitchen, the knife's rhythmic thud pausing mid-motion. "Alexandra, we have a situation with the Chicago location. Marcus, our head chef, is threatening to leave and take his team." The news hit hard. Marcus was pivotal, his Michelin-starred reputation anchoring the Midwest expansion we'd poured millions into. "Why?" I asked, setting the knife down, the aroma of fresh herbs lingering. Ellington Group, our fiercest competitor, had poached him with double salary, creative control and equity, details suspiciously aligned with our unannounced plans. "This feels like a leak," Richard said, echoing my thoughts. "Possibly at the board level." The timing reeked of sabotage. Harold Ellington's long-rumored interest in acquiring us now exploiting our post-divorce vulnerabilities. "I need to fly out tomorrow to convince him to stay," he continued. "But I could use your help, with contracts, legal angles, and Marcus respects you." Surprise flickered. Operational issues were his domain, yet here he sought collaboration. My weekend plans, brunch with a friend, reviewing case files, could shift. "Send the flight details. I'll review Marcus's contract tonight." We boarded the 9 a.m. from LaGuardia, first-class seats side by side, the plane's hum underscoring our strategy session. Richard looked stressed, checking his watch repeatedly, his cologne a familiar note amid the cabin's recycled air. "The non-compete clauses are weak," I noted, scrolling my tablet. "Enforceable, but litigation would delay us. We need him willing." Our counteroffer coalesced. Matching pay, larger equity in Chicago specifically, and a chef training program under his name. My idea, expanded with locations in multiple cities for lasting legacy. "Ellington can't offer that institution building," Richard added passionately, his eyes lighting with the vision. We avoided personal topics, but the ease of our brainstorming hinted at old synergies resurfacing. At the Four Seasons Chicago, the concierge's Mr. and Mrs. Montgomery slip drew a quick correction from Richard. "Separate rooms, Ms. and Mr." His firmness oddly reassuring. Adjoining suites, as it turned out, convenient for prep. That evening, we met Marcus at the riverfront restaurant, the kitchen's sizzle and clatter evoking memories of openings I'd attended as his wife. Richard's hand brushed my back, navigating the bustle, an unconscious habit. I stiffened. He apologized softly, the moment a reminder of boundaries. In Marcus's office, amid stacks of menus and the faint garlic aroma, we laid out our pitch without threats. "We've heard Ellington's offer," I said conversationally. "Generous, but I'm curious how they knew our menu concepts in detail." Discomfort crossed his face. He denied leaking, but the implication hung. Richard steered to incentives. "We're offering not just money, but legacy. The Marcus Training Institute, mentoring the next generation." Over the hour, his guarded expression softened, especially at the program's details. My observation of his mentorship style during a prior visit sealing it. "Alexandra's idea," Richard credited, surprising me. "She saw your strength in teaching." Marcus committed verbally by meeting's end, contingent on contract revisions I'd draft. Walking back along the river, city lights dancing on the water, Richard admitted, "Better than expected. Your program pitch was key. We make a good team professionally," he observed quietly. The comment lingered, waited, always did. That wasn't our issue. He slowed, vulnerability surfacing. "Our problem was me not seeing you evolve, feeling threatened by your success." "Therapy," he revealed, weekly for 15 months, prompted by Marcus noticing his insecurity-driven micromanaging, had unpacked it. "I sabotaged us because I couldn't adjust to you as my equal." The candor stunned. Wind off the river chilled my skin, but his words warmed a forgotten corner. "Insightful," I managed. "Better late than never." At the hotel bar, he suggested a drink to discuss next steps. I hesitated, caution flags waving at the dimly lit space and our history. "I should review those clauses," I demurred. In the elevator, silence stretched until he thanked me again. "Good night, Alexandra." Alone in my suite, overlooking the glittering skyline, I texted James about the gala, his reply light and uncomplicated. The contrast sharpened. Richard's complex evolution versus new beginnings. Sleep came fitfully, dreams weaving past betrayals with professional triumphs. The stability I'd achieved in the wake of the Chicago trip lingered like a calm after turbulence. The business thriving under our unlikely partnership, while my personal world expanded in quiet, meaningful ways. The brownstone's herb garden flourished under my care, fresh basil and rosemary infusing my experimental dinners with aromas that symbolized self-sufficiency. Rowing sessions grew more invigorating, the Hudson's currents mirroring my internal rhythm. Strong, persistent. James's texts arrived sporadically, blending professional intrigue with subtle flirtation, like his query about antitrust overlaps and sustainable contracts, always ending with a light invitation to continue over coffee. I responded measuredly, not rushing but savoring the possibility, a contrast to Richard's revelations in Chicago that had left me reflective rather than reopened wounds. Therapy had reshaped him, he claimed, unpacking insecurities that fueled his betrayal. Part of me believed it. Another guarded against old patterns. The firm's 30th anniversary gala loomed as a milestone, held at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, its grand staircase bathed in soft evening light as I ascended in an emerald silk gown that hugged my figure elegantly, diamond earrings catching the glow like stars. The air hummed with string quartet melodies and murmured conversations, floral arrangements in firm colors, deep blue and silver, adorning tables laden with champagne flutes. Thomas and Eleanor greeted me warmly, his pride evident. "You look stunning, Alexandra. The venue suits the occasion." Inside, the great hall transformed into a reception wonderland, historic architecture illuminated subtly, the scent of orchids mingling with perfumes. 30 years deserve spectacle," Thomas quipped, glancing at younger associates eyeing the open bar. Eleanor nudged me playfully. "Someone's been watching the entrance." Following her gaze, James stood across the room, tall and distinguished in his tuxedo, gray eyes locking on mine with a warm smile that stirred an unexpected flutter. I navigated greetings, colleagues praising my division's recent clients toasting contracts I'd secured, aware of James's patient regard. When I reached him, his voice carried appreciation. "Alexandra, you look breathtaking." "James, thank you, and for your patience." "Some things are worth it," he replied, offering his arm toward the dance floor where couples swayed to a jazz standard. His hand at my waist maintained respectful distance, our steps syncing effortlessly. Vertical integration in supply chains, as promised, he began, drawing a laugh from me. We debated lightly, my views on avoiding monopolies in restaurant sourcing, his counterpoints on efficiency, our conversation memorable for its depth, referencing cases like the Andrews merger. "I followed your work," he admitted, guiding a turn. "Brilliant and principled." The compliment warmed me, sincere without excess. "And whoever let you go made a grave mistake." The intimacy hung, but before I could respond, a familiar voice interrupted. "May I cut in?" Richard stood there, tuxedo impeccable, expression unreadable as he glanced between us. Surprise jolted me. James stepped back gracefully. "If the lady wishes." Both turned to me, the quartet's notes swelling. "One dance for courtesy." James nodded, kissing my hand lightly. "I'll get drinks. Find me after." Richard took his place, distance more formal, his cologne evoking memories as we moved. "Sorry for interrupting. I didn't intend." "What was your intention?" I asked directly. "This is my firm's event. You weren't invited." He explained. Invited by client Robert Chandler, an investor in the restaurants. He'd considered leaving upon seeing me but stayed, curiosity piqued by my dance with James. "It's been 15 months. Intellectually, I knew you'd move on, but seeing it." "Jealousy?" "No right to it," he admitted, but hard nonetheless. The music carried us, his steps familiar yet distant. "You look confident, beautiful, with someone who appreciates you." Questions surged. Why now? We hadn't discussed personal matters since Chicago. We've established a working relationship. The business thrives. Why complicate? "Because Chicago made me think," he said lowly, "about what I lost, the man I was. Therapy's shown me I never truly saw you as equal, superior even. I felt threatened by your growth." His hand tightened slightly in a turn, vulnerability raw. "I wanted you to know I see you now, even if too late." No pleas for reconciliation, just acknowledgement. The piece ended, he released me. "Thank you for the dance and what you've taught me." Glancing at James, "He seems good. I hope he knows his fortune." Richard vanished into the crowd, leaving me processing. Cathartic closure, a final exhale on our history. Rejoining James with champagne, his concern gentle. "All right?" "Yes." Just unexpected conversation with my ex. He knew, reputation preceding Richard. Everyone has a past. What matters is the present and future, if you're interested. His directness refreshed. We dined, sharing stories from childhood books to legal triumphs, balance evident in our exchange. By night's end, he walked me to my car, the cool air crisp. "Dinner next weekend?" MoMA exhibit beforehand. I agreed, his cheek kiss lingering respectfully. In the car, watching him recede, lightness bloomed, not infatuation, but grounded potential. Home, amid the brownstone's quiet, I reflected. Richard's words sealed the past. James hinted at new chapters. The gala's unexpected closure with Richard had shifted something subtle yet profound in my outlook. A final untangling of emotional knots that allowed me to step fully into the life I'd been building. In the months that followed, professional accolades piled up like well-earned validations. The American Bar Association's Women in Law Award for my sustainable contract models and hospitality. A podium moment under bright lights where I spotted Richard in the back row, his nod a quiet respect, and James in the front, his pride evident in his steady gaze. My acceptance speech wove themes of intentional rebuilding. Our greatest contributions emerge from forging new paths in law and life. The words resonating in the auditorium's hush, applause washing over me like affirmation. Dinner afterward, arranged by James with close friends and Thomas, ended in toasts to Alexandra, who masters both legal letters and human hearts. Glasses clinked, laughter filled the intimate venue, the candlelit ambiance soft against the city's night skyline, visible through windows. 6 months post-gala, James and I had settled into a relationship that felt balanced, his antitrust expertise complementing my work in ways that sparked engaging debates over weekend dinners. MoMA exhibits leading to cozy Italian bistros where we'd dissect cases amid garlic-scented air and shared tiramisu. No rush toward milestones, it was grounded. His divorce 4 years prior, teaching him patience, much like mine had instilled caution. "You're extraordinary on your own," he'd say, his dimpled smile appearing as we strolled Central Park, leaves crunching underfoot in autumn crispness. The brownstone evolved too. a redesign incorporating a sunlit study with views of the garden now yielding vegetables for my cooking experiments. The space a sanctuary of independence. The restaurant group continued its ascent, my board role active and influential, vetoing a risky acquisition that Richard initially favored, only for market shifts to prove me right, earning his emailed concession. "Your foresight saved us." We collaborated on the newest location's opening, the first fully under our partnership, its warm lighting and sustainable materials drawing raves from critics. At the event, amid clinking glasses and the hum of investors, Richard and I shared a brief aside near the bar. "Congratulations, your concept nailed it." "Our concept," I corrected gently. A wistful flicker crossed his face. "Better partners than spouses." "Perhaps wrong timing," I mused, surprised by my softness. "What if we'd met as equals?" he asked vulnerably. "We can't rewrite, but learn." As he greeted a critic, I reflected on the year's journey. Pain transmuted into growth, betrayal a catalyst for authenticity. The irony of the prenup persisted, its clause turning Richard's protection into my empowerment. Our forced alliance yielding dividends neither anticipated. Stock climbed another 10%, sustainability awards rolling in, the business robust from our complementary skills, his operations, my legal acumen. Therapy had changed him visibly. In meetings, he listened more, charmed less manipulatively. No reconciliation whispers in my heart, closure sufficed. Brittany's occasional updates, her design school's successes, a show featuring her work, brought smiles, our shared liberation, a quiet bond. 15 months divorced, life bloomed in unanticipated ways. Mentoring young associates at the firm, their eager questions echoing my early days. Volunteering for environmental pro bono, aligning with James's causes over joint runs in the park, our breaths sinking in the dawn mist. The young receptionist I'd been had fully evolved into Alexandra Montgomery, named partner, business co-owner, woman complete in her solitude and connections. Richard's call, once devastating, now seemed a distant echo. The phone's ring that day, a pivot to freedom. In the quiet evenings that followed, as the city's relentless pulse softened into a gentle hum beyond my brownstone windows, I found myself lingering over simple pleasures. A cup of herbal tea steaming in the lamplight, the pages of a novel turning slowly under my fingers. The sharp edges of betrayal had dulled, worn smooth by time and intention, leaving behind a landscape of resilience where once there was only fracture. James's presence wove in gently, his calls a warm thread in the fabric of my days, conversations drifting from courtroom strategies to dreams unspoken, each word a soft affirmation of possibilities unfolding without haste. Richard faded to the periphery, our professional exchanges cordial echoes of what was, his growth a distant mirror to my own, no longer pulling at old scars. Brittany's journey, shared in sporadic messages, reminded me of cycles broken, lives reclaimed in whispers of design sketches and fresh starts. The awards weight on my shelf served as a quiet sentinel, not of victory over pain, but of the steady bloom that follows storms. As seasons turned, leaves whispering secrets to the wind outside, I embraced the serenity of self, knowing the phone call that shattered had, in its quiet aftermath, invited me to rebuild with hands steady and heart open. And in that rebuilding, I discovered not just survival, but a profound, enduring peace, a life authored in my own gentle script, fading into the horizon like a sigh.